Welcome everyone, today we have a new guide for Diablo 4 and I'm super excited to share this build with you guys, and this build is going to be the Infinite Summon Mage, and I do believe this is likely going to be the most broken mage build in the game, so let's have a look what's happening. Now unfortunately I do not have access to the beta during the recording of this video because beta is not available until 3 days. And I did come across this particular guide coming from Bamboo Panda. So one of my viewers after the last video sent me this particular guide and asked me to have a look at it. I did have a look and I found something that is closer related to it. So this is another video from the YouTuber Astro Gaming. So let's have a look. Something similar. This is not exactly the same as his build, but it's very similar. Our build will have more summons, more cooldown reduction. So I'll just briefly show you guys the display, and then at the end of the video I'll go through the skill combinations and also rotations with you guys about how broken the build is. So the highlight and also build concept of the build is, each time you cast a cooldown spell, you will summon an Ice Blade after 20 seconds of cooldown spell is casted. So if a spell with a cooldown of 20 seconds, you will summon one Ice Blade. This is the enchantment specialty. And what you can see in the video is our friend here have at least 4 blades or even 5 blades summoned. He is constantly lowering his cooldown. Notice that his cooldown is getting reset and non-stop, and our build takes this even more to advantage. He's summoning about 4 blades. I'm expecting that we can get up to maybe 5, 6 or even 7 blades on the map and even more. So this could be incredibly good and lots of damage. Now in order for you guys to understand the whole concept of the build, what I want to do is I have a lot of notes ready for you guys, especially the skill rotations, which will be amazing, right? So let's first come over to the skill tree, and we'll go through the skill tree and then the codex, and then understand the build. This build is actually amazing because it does not use a core skill. That's right, we don't use basic skills and we don't use core skills. We only use cooldown related skills. This is very creative and quite interesting, and let's see how it works. So coming over to a skill tree, one thing I do want to mention is I have not tried not using basic and also core skills. I believe this should be allowed in Diablo 4. This is the case for Diablo 3. And if it is not allowed, you basically select the advanced option for selective mode, which allows you to pick any skills in any combination, and also whether it's basic and also core spells, those places can be replaced with active spells. So coming over to our basic skill tree. Now you can pick any of the basic spells because we won't be using the basic spells, and the upgrades we just here so we can perk into the next section. So here we just pick any upgrades, and I went for the mana gain, and this is I'm going with full spot. And similarly, we won't be using any of the core spells. Notice guys, you don't want to level up like this. At the start of your leveling process, you still build normally, right? This is only after you get to around level 20, or maybe when you get to level 25, max level for the beta. So here we'll be going to passive of Potent Warding, simply because this is the only passive that gives us something, because everything else gives us maximum mana and also increased core skill damage. So this is the only passive that gives us something for the build. And next up, we come over to the defensive section. We'll be going with 3 different long cooldown defensive spells, including Flame Shield, Ice Armor, and also Force Nova. Flame Shield will give us invulnerability and also burn damage over time, and this increased movement speed. On top of that, if you lose health, Flame Shield also heals you for the missing life of 50%, so we can get more HP. Ice Armor is also really good. It will give us a shield, which is very important for the Codex for bonus damage. It also provides you with additional shield for the damage you dealt. We won't be going to upgrades for Ice Armor because we don't need mana. This particular build does not need mana regeneration and anything related to mana, because we always have maximum mana. Now as for the Force Nova, we'll be going to the upgrade of killing enemies while frozen reduces cooldown. This is not bad, and the focus over here is that Force Nova will make enemies vulnerable. We want to constantly make enemies vulnerable. When they are vulnerable, we deal more damage, and this special triggers our concept theme of the Ice Blade. So Ice Blade want enemies to be vulnerable, and making bosses vulnerable for 8 seconds is really good. Now one thing to notice is that our cooldowns for the spells are 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and also 20 seconds. Now why do I look at the cooldowns? It's because of this spell, Ice Blade. The Ice Blade will be our specialization for the Mage. So the enchantment for Ice Blade will be used, and this will allow us to summon one Ice Blade every 20-second cooldown we use. So what that means is, when you spend a spell like Ice Armor with a 20-second cooldown, you will summon Ice Blade when this spell is casted. And similarly for the Flame Shield. And if you cast Force Nova, another spell that takes about 5 seconds is casted, then you summon Blade. So this is why if we come back to the YouTube demonstration over here, you can see our friend, when he casts spells, he will be summoning blades. So not only does he summon Ice Blade himself, when he casts spells, he summons more Ice Blades. And this is a cornerstone and also concept for the build. Now the upgrades of the Ice Blade is what makes this build broken, right? So let's have a look. So Ice Blade's cooldown will be lowered for each second it hits vulnerable enemies, and we want to get enemies vulnerable. Ice Blade itself also have a chance of making enemies vulnerable, which is really good. But ideally, you 100% vulnerability with Ice Nova or Force Nova, which can be reset very fast. And finally, this is another core concept, right? So Ice Blades lower cooldown reduction by 1 second each time it attacks a vulnerable enemy, and you summon a lot of Ice Blades. They only work for Ice Blades at the moment, but with this upgrade, it will work for all your other spells, with 50% reduction. So each time one of your blade hits, you get a whole skill cooldown reduction of 0.5 seconds. If you have like 5 blades, every second when they hit, you get like 2.5 second cooldown reduction. And this is crazy, because the more cooldown reduction you have, the lower cooldowns you have on your other spells, then you use them again, you get more blade, and this repeats. So this is how our friend here have almost a lot of blades, but our build will have even more blade because we have 2 bigger cooldown spells. He doesn't have that many cooldown spells because he still used basic and also core spells. And finally, in order to get some more summons and also longer cooldown, we'll be going with Lightning Spear. And Lightning Spear have a 20-second cooldown, it's a bonus damage. We're really using this one for the free Ice Blade, and also it also gets a cooldown reduction as Ice Blade's attack. Now, because we don't have that many skill points, we won't go into any points into mastery. But one thing you do want to notice is the massive bonus damage you get from this build from Conjunction of Mastery. So for every summons you have increased 3% damage. And because we have 6, 7, even 8 Ice Blade on the map, we can have anywhere from 20-30% bonus damage. And this is incredibly good. So this is a must-have passive for this build. Now coming over to the ultimate section, we also have a massive long cooldown ultimate with Inferno for 45 seconds. And this also burns enemies over time. And this with upgrade also pulls enemies together. So this can group enemies. This also doesn't need the last passive upgrade because we don't have any, pyro spells that cast mana, right? So you just need one upgrade. And this also groups enemies together. So for your blades to hit them and for you to do massive damage and also freeze them. Now that you guys see the concept behind the skills and also specialization, let's briefly talk about the Codex, because this build also doesn't require that many Codex. Even as you see I highlighted a few Codex, this build works without Codex. But if you want to make it perfect, if you want to make more damage, we'll talk about the Codex a little bit, then we talk about the skill rotations, which is going to be amazing. Now, because we won't be casting any mana and we won't be using core spell, a lot of the offensive codex won't be working for us, but I do have a few options. So for the Edge Master, skill steal 24% increased damage with high available resource. Because our resource of mana is always at 100%, we always deal bonus 24% damage. And if you imbued this one, imprinted this codex onto a weapon, a two-handed weapon, you will have 48% bonus damage all the time because, you're not spending mana, right? So this is like a free bonus damage for us, which is really good. At the same time, if we also have this particular codex on the gloves or maybe, on a one-hand weapon, it can also work. It can be on the two-hand weapon, but it is not as good as this one. So this one allows us to deal increased damage when enemies are vulnerable. We have a barrier. And if you've seen in the video and also see the, the build concept, you will always have a barrier because you have the ice armor almost constantly up, and this means you're pretty much unkillable for the build. Now during my first 3 days of beta, I also found a two-handed aspect on my bow, which provide a bonus to 68% damage to my character while having a barrier. And I didn't see the codex in this, so this must be a codex that is not revealed in before the beta. So this particular codex could be the perfect slot for this build. And 48% damage constantly bonus is going to be tremendous. So the two recommendation of the codex will be going with having a bonus damage while having a barrier, or you can go with bonus damage just by itself because you have maximum mana. Now in terms of the defensive choices for your codex, you actually have a lot of varieties. Everything that goes with barrier can be useful, and also ice armor can also make you unstoppable. But those are not the biggest deal. I mean, the aspect of unwavering means you can reset your cooldowns, but once you try the build, guys, you will see this is pretty amazing. You don't really need any defensives, and this is my concern. It'll be too good, it might get nerfed. Now coming back to our notes about the gear stats, what you want to find is you want to find increased skill rank to the ice blades. This will be the major factor for you to do more damage because you summon like a bazillion of them. You also want to find bonus damage to vulnerability, bonus damage to frozen, which are crowd control enemies, and also increased critical chance, critical damage, and you might even get close out range bonus. Because you'll be everywhere. You might be close to enemies, you might be away from enemies. I think range damage bonus will be a little better because your blades will do all the work. You also want intelligence, and those are the preferable choices for your gear stats. And of course over here we have the sockets. So for the sockets, get damage increase, the critical damage increase when crowd control enemies is not bad. For the armor items, for the sockets, you can go with maximum HP. And this is because our flame shield will be healing us with missing HP of 50%. And this is actually really good. And of course, you can go with Thorn, which means more damage, right? And as for the accessories, you can go with what you have the lowest resistance. Now coming over to the skill rotations. So what I want to show you guys is we just briefly have a look at our friend here who was casting spells. You can see he's basically spamming all 4 of his cooldown spells, and those cooldowns are not that long. Our rotation will be a little different to his because we'll have 6 different active spells. So coming over to our notes, our 6 different active spells will be, I'll give you guys a quick rundown. The longest one will be the Inferno with 45 seconds. Followed by that, we have a 20-second spell for 3 of them. Lightning Spear, and also Ice Armor, and also Flame Shield. The lower ones will be Force Nova for 15 seconds, and also 12 seconds for Ice Blade. Ice Blade pretty much on cooldown every second, and it gets reset infinitely. So what you're going to do is, initially you want to summon your blades. You can summon Ice Blade and also your Lightning Blade, which means you get 1 additional blade because of the enchantment of Ice Blade. Ice Blade means you already spent about 32 seconds of cooldown, and you get 1 free Ice Blade. Now if you're facing a group of enemies, or if you want to do a little bit more damage, you can use Inferno, and with upgrades you'll be pulling enemies together, and you'll summon 2 more blades because you cast this spell. After that, you want to be casting both of your Ice Armor and also Flame Armor. You get tankier, you get unstoppable, you get a lot of bonus, and you can't be, even deal damage because you have Flame Shield, and you also summon 2 more blades. At this moment, you probably have 5 or 6 blades, because your blades will be constantly attacking. And after that, what you can do is, you can always freeze enemies. Once you freeze enemies with Ice Nova, you're likely to summon 1 more blade, because your cooldown reductions with other spells. And finally, your blades are ready to be cooldown again, and they have resetted. So summon more of your Ice Blade and also your Lightning Blades. And you repeat this process until the whole map is full of blades. And then you will probably get lagged out because too many blades, right? Now, because I don't have access to my beta account for the Mage, I'm gonna do Mage once we get a beta account, and I'll show you guys this full build in action. This will be so broken. I'm ready with my aspect, guys. I have this aspect. I want to show you guys when I go on the beta next weekend. Now, before finishing the video, I also want to give you guys a build review. And of course, if you guys have any builds you want to share with me, make sure you direct message me on Discord. And this is one of the ways I was able to come across this build because of the viewers. So the advantage of this build is, it looks too good, guys, and it feels too good. We can already see the example of a different variation of the build. And here he only have 4 active spells, and they're not that long on cooldown. And my spells have longer cooldown, and they're incredibly good. The more blades you have, the better for all your spells. So the advantage is also disadvantage. It might get nerfed. We have some fun testing while in the beta. Now the skill is really good because it has minimum and also no requirement for the Codex. There's nothing needed for the Codex. What you're getting from the Codex is that you'll have bonus damage. You either get bonus damage over here, or you get bonus damage on this particular aspect for another 24 or maybe 48%. But it's not a must-have for the build. You already deal so much damage and also cooldown reduction. You also can't be killed easily, simply because you have so many eyes and also flame shield. So the option of the Codex is very flexible. You just need to level to maybe to level 20 or even 25 and you'll be perfect. The build does not spend mana. This is a massive highlight because how often do you see a build that doesn't use core spell? And this means you can go with the Codex to enjoy more damage. And I like creative builds that makes, think outside of the box. Why would you go with basic spell and also core spell when you don't have to, right? So the basic spell and also core spells, we don't even need to look at it. I wish they had more passives over here, so it doesn't have to be so defensive. If we had like glass cannon over here, it would be even better. I have to perk into those passives, because otherwise we can't get the defensive section. Now the disadvantage of this build is that it's probably too good, it's probably going to get nerfed. And you might be summoning too many things and lagging out yourself and also other players. So I'm a little, joking about this. Now, not spending mana can be very uncomfortable and also strange. And maybe the build can use a core spell. But during the beta, we don't have enough skill points to get a max level core spell. And this is one of the reasons I didn't go with core spell. But if you want, you can go with 5 active spells and use the core spell. But once you try the build out, I'm sure you guys want to go all 6 active spells for the cooldown reduction. So the more cooldown spells we get, the more free blades we get, and also the lower cooldowns you get. Hopefully you guys like this video. Now that we have a really good mage build, my next choice is to look into a really good rogue build, and it's something we can test with open beta. Now if you guys do have a good build, or if you found a good build and want me to review it and share with everyone on YouTube, definitely let me know on Discord, and the best way to get to me will be messaging me directly on Discord after joining the server. Now, hopefully you guys enjoy my guide for Diablo 4, and we will be having our Discord channel, and our Discord channel is ready for Diablo 4. So if you guys want to join us for sharing builds, strategies, tips, guides, Diablo 4 news, memes, funny stuff, lore, we'll look into Diablo 4 claims and also claim wars for PvP, and also looking for group for world boss. So I have the invites available for you guys in the description below and also the comments. Make sure you have a look and join us on Diablo 4. We're pretty mature gamers, we're very friendly. We currently have a group for Genshin Impact players, Tower of Fantasy, Lost Ark, Dota 2, TFT for League of Legends, and also Yu-Gi-Oh! As well Ling and also Arknights. So make sure you guys join us and say hi and be friendly with everyone. And stay a while and listen. Now, before you go, and if you guys didn't know, we have a new YouTube channel. So I just started a YouTube channel with my girlfriend yesterday, and you can see this is only 12 hours old, this YouTube channel. And if you guys haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe and check out the behind the scenes and also fun clips and also more stories about us. And then you get to know me a little more personally instead of just reading the news and also the games, right? So I want to share a little bit more with you guys. So make sure you check this channel out if you're interested about Matt and also Uni. She's really funny too, and she's really shy. So I want to give her a surprise and do a shout out for the new channel to get some subscribers. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys next time.